put a wiggle expression on expansion if we just wanted it to be animating like this endlessly. So what we can do is option click. I'm going to type wiggle, left parenthesis, 4 as an example, so 4 times a second, comma, units, so 100, right parenthesis, and 4 times a second, it's going to animate above and below the original value of 0, 100 units. So if I scrub through, you can see that the text is now red and it's animating back and forth 4 times a second. And why expressions is so useful is because rather than adding keyframes and changing it, we can just change these numbers. So if it was too fast, we could go 2 times a second. And if we wanted more, we could just type in 200 as an example. And this applies to every parameter. So as another example, we'll just get these circles out of here and just move them out of the way a bit for now, but we'll leave them on the composition because it looks a little interesting and it'll be useful background animation. So as another example, say I had text that was 3D, so I'm going to type wiggle and then seeds it into them the same. So now if I have this one, W equals wiggle, and then these will be my units, and it's going to seed them exactly the same, so they're both defined as 0. Now if I use that and then just change the numbers, it's going to scale that uniformly. And this also applies to position. So say I wiggled the position 4 times a second, comma, 300, so 300 pixels. It's just going to kind of float around, but if I wanted to constrain it to X or Y, there's another one I have over here which works great, which is a little further, and if I copy paste this in here and take a look at this, there's one that we can write out that's defining X, Y, and W as transform position, transform Y position, and then that same wiggle expression. So 4 times a second, it's going to go 400, so then it would go just left and right. And if I wanted to switch this one, I could just cut this and write X and change the order, and now it's going to go up and down. And if you're wondering how to remember these, well, I have this document that I typed all these out on that I just like to copy and paste. And if you want to grab this, head on over to the Facebook page at facebook.com/Vital and send me a message, and I will send you this document because it's a really useful little resource for these specific ones where the wiggles get a little more interesting. So wiggle is very useful. Let's continue on. Number 2, time. So what we can do as an expression to write out is if I, again, option click, say opacity. If I type in the word time, all lowercase, what this one will do is take the value that the expression is on and link it to the number of seconds where the playhead currently is in my composition. So what this means is if I have opacity, it's going to start at 0, and then when it gets to 1 second, it's going to be 1, 2 seconds, 2. Same idea if I did rotation and just type time, and say I offset this anchor point, it's going to at 1 second be 1 degree, 2 seconds, 2 degrees. Now, this seems kind of useless at the beginning, but why this is useful is we can add multiplication to this, so we can have time, say for rotation, and then instead of 1 degree a second, say time times 30, then it's going to go 30 degrees every second, and now if we play, it's going to continue to rotate, and now go 30 degrees every second. So why this one can be really useful is because it's really good for automating animation where you just want it to continuously go. So this would just endlessly rotate. And it's really useful for effects that have a degrees meter. So say as an example on top of this, I'll add a new adjustment layer and I'll put in cell pattern as an example, which creates this kind of organic pattern. Any effect that has a meter like this where it's evolution, rather than having keyframes, we can option click and then type in time multiplied by a number. So let's say 300, so where the playhead is times 300, and then if I play, it's just going to animate this. And this makes it a lot easier than using keyframes, because instead of changing keyframes, if we want this to be faster, we can just increase the number. So time times 500, it'll go much faster. And then say if I just put this on a blending mode like add or overlay, now I have this animation in the background that's just going on time. And maybe I'll take the opacity of that down a bit, or even wiggle the opacity. Let's say twice a second, 25 units from 75. So it's going to take the original value. And now I have this animating background that's evolving over time, that's animating on opacity in and out. And there's some other useful ones that also have this evolution, just as another example. If on top of everything I add another adjustment layer, and then I'll add hue saturation, and I check on colorize, this is going to colorize everything below it. And if I turn up saturation,